Today I'm going to talk about Donald Judd, an American artist who was born in the late 1920s and passed away in 1994. Here we're looking at a sculpture, well, not much of a sculpture, but more like a group of stacked pieces that were done by Judd in 1969. As obvious as it is, the sculpture is either freestanding nor relief. All of these isolated boxes attached to the wall are identical, and the work is untitled. Now, each of those boxes were not made by Donald Judd, they were actually made in a factory. Judd was very specific about how exactly the boxes were to be hung on the wall. In fact, they are all 6 inches apart. The material used on this piece is reflective, in that it creates a shadow and coloristic effect. So when I first saw Donald Judd's artworks, I thought they were bizarre, but also really kind of cool in a way, because they're just too simple for me to tell what the artist is trying to express. But how he playfully arranges all the color, materials, and space in his artwork makes me can't help but wonder what is it that this guy is trying to show us. So I looked him up online and I learned about his connection with minimalism. It turns out that minimalism is a movement that is strongly associated with post-World War II American visual art in the 1960s and early 1970s. And Donald Judd is considered the leading international exponent of minimalism. Now, as I was reading about minimalism, I learned that some people at that time actually found it disturbingly boring because of its lack of apparent meanings. Whereas some critics also pointed out that minimalism seemed to show rejection of traditional expectations of skill and originality in art. I can understand how the exhibition of plywood boxes, fluorescent lights, and concrete blocks can seem to be a little difficult to be distinguished as art. However, after learning about Donald Judd's point of view, I totally became his supporter. Donald Judd wrote an essay called Specific Objects as he abandoned painting for sculpture in the early 1960s. In the essay, he claims that there is a starting point for a new territory for American art and a simultaneous rejection of residual inherited European artistic values. The works that Judd had created inhabited a space that is not comfortably classifiable as either painting or sculpture. In fact, he refused to call them sculpture, pointing out that they were not sculpted but made by small fabricators using industrial processes. Personally, I admire Donald Judd's work very much. I believe what all of the minimalists are doing is that they're questioning what's possible in art. They're not simply getting rid of anything, they're literally trying to figure out what can be done and how you can make art in the situation. Donald Judd is trying to do something that's physical and visual. He shows us the beauty in the materials he found by the way he presented them to us. That's the unique thing that distinguishes Judd from anybody else, and I have a lot of respect for him because of that. I think he's a true artist. Another famous minimalist once said, "What you see is what you see," and I thought to myself, that's exactly right. Art doesn't always need meanings. And I think all of us should be thankful for these minimalists, because their contribution to the movement will always inspire us to learn and to understand its significance.
We could be together.